two questions. I just want to go over the education committee here real quick. I represent from Waikiki, it's in Dane County. Dave from Green Bay, Bob from Hopper up on Superior, John's in Racine, Luther's in New Berlin, Glenn's in West End, although he wants to be the street superintendent of Dane County. And then we have Randy Hopper from Fond du Lac. This Senate Committee, Senate Education Committee, has absolutely nobody from Milwaukee on it. This is a huge, huge thing. And representing where I represent, I obviously have a lot of questions before we end up pulling the trigger on this. I also understand the timeline that we're under, but I just wanted to make it really clear to everybody that there isn't anybody from Milwaukee on this committee. And also, the other thing I wanted to point out is when situations come up like this, we usually listen to the Milwaukee delegation, and they're pretty split on this, and they're split pretty passionately, which is interesting. I guess questions for the authors, or authors. Why not go to referendum first?
Two reasons, Senator Urbanbach. One, January 19th is the deadline for the Race to the Top application. Two, because 8,500 young people start in elementary. By the time they get to middle school, we have 8,300. By the time they get to 10th grade, we have 3,000. Of the 3,000, 1,500 can't read, and only 1,000 can do 10th grade math. They can't wait.
You know, I just think that, again, we didn't just show up at this podium today. Right. This comes from a long experience of trying to share these concerns with the board, or either they haven't been able and equipped to handle the challenges, and the challenges keep getting worse and worse. I frankly don't think we have time. We don't have the time to wait for another budget to show. Frankly, and we all come from our experiences. Some of us are, are state legislators, as you are. That is, we have to craft policy that makes sense to the whole state. It's becoming increasingly difficult for me, given the numbers that Lena cited, for me to make a case for Milwaukee. So if you want to go to the referendum, the earliest I assume we can have it is what? Sometime next year, right? By then, the Race to the Top application will be gone. And in fact, all of the legislation that's introduced in Congress has the same sort of criteria. And my view is that you're going to, and I agree with Senator Taylor, you're going to allow or disallow a lot of kids to make headway in math and reading and basic courses. I mean, what you will find, and I suspect a lot of testimony will revolve around democracy, poverty. A lot of the testimony against this will talk about crime. We'll talk about all the things that are not educational achievement. And so the issue today is educational achievement. And the issue today, I think both sides stipulate and agree that it's not very good. And we're all concerned. The question for us as state legislators is the status quo providing the answers to those challenges, or do we need to try a new course ASAP?
No, from what I understand and what I've read and research I've done, status quo can't happen, obviously. There's also another piece of legislation, maybe Secretary Norton can answer this, where the state superintendent comes in and deals with the lowest performing schools, which qualifies us for Race to the Top. I understand how important Race to the Top is, but I also don't think we should be leading off right away, well, we need to do this because of Race to the Top. And
excuse me, Senator Urbanbach. I just want to caution the audience to not applaud. You just encourage Senator Urbanbach.
Yeah, because I don't get this at home.
Also, as a matter of announcement, I noticed that there are about a dozen places to sit right up front over here. We've got a lot of people standing. If you wish to find a seat, there are some seats here yet, and interspersed near the front, especially on my right. Go ahead, Secretary.
So the question is, do you need both, or does the state superintendent take over? So kind of fill the bill as far as Race to the Top goes.
It's very clear to us that Senate Bill 405, the bill that we're talking about here today, is essential to driving the kinds of changes that needs to be done here in the city of Milwaukee, for kids of the city of Milwaukee. The governance structure that we're talking about gives the mayor and the superintendent the kind of tools necessary to put in place a good plan and then drive that plan through the educational system here. The superintendent's bill that you're talking, state superintendent's bill that you're talking about, would be additive and would be helpful to whomever the superintendent and the mayor might be in trying to get done some of those things that are important. But no, let's make no mistake about it. What we're talking about here in terms of the governance structure of the bill is something that we think is critical to the importance of our ability to not just put a plan in place, but ensure that we have the people who can be held accountable for stable over time to ensure that that plan gets done. That's simply not something that we've seen over the last 2 decades here in the city of Milwaukee. That's why we think this board structure that we currently have is not serving the children very well.
Okay.
Senator Earnhardt,
yeah.
to address that issue, 2 things. One, the state superintendent bill, I also want to say it's like preventative. It prevents us from getting in the situation that we are in now in Milwaukee and other districts that are DI-5 districts that are coming up in the rear, so that a state superintendent is able to prevent us from getting to this dire state that we're in Milwaukee, in Beloit, which is coming right behind, and Racine, which is coming right behind there. The difference between the state superintendent bill and this legislation, SB 405, is that SB 405 allows local control on addressing the issues that exist in our district, versus a state superintendent bill allows the state to come in and say what happens. And this is an effort, a compromise effort, to keep local control to address the issues that are in the district, and the state superintendent is the buffer to prevent other districts from ever having to go down our path.
Okay, then 2 more quick questions then, and then I'm done. If both bills become law, does the state superintendent have the ability then to come into Milwaukee if one of the lowest performing schools is identified?
Yes.
And be able to do exactly what that legislation says? Hire, fire, move principals, make changes in curriculum?
Yes.
Okay. And then last question, and this is actually, I guess, more so for Lena. And again, I'm just asking because I don't know. Senator Taylor, I don't know, and that's why I'm asking the question. So the school board will become advocates in all aspects of parental involvement after school and community programming and pupil discipline. With all due respect, and you know, you and I get along fine. Why, in the end, given how much money is spent on elections of school board members, how much they get paid, how much staff for just the administration of the school board, why do you need it if that's what they're going to be doing?
I think that those are huge pieces. I think parental involvement and the navigation in the system are huge issues. And I think that you can't even put a dollar on that. And I was speaking with Representative Sinicki, who was sharing with me at one point school board members, made a lot even less than they make now. So it's not as if school board members make a huge amount of dollars. I believe that the advocacy with parents as well as the disciplinary issues with young people are very important factors, and will be, frankly, very time-consuming components. Just think of your constituent relation issues that you do in your office, as well as helping people to navigate the system and advocate are very important issues. And not to mention that parental involvement is a challenge that presently exists. So it would be great to see individuals who can laser in on that, and then a superintendent who can laser in on issues, and a mayor that can laser in. It will allow for what I feel like a distribution of the responsibilities in such a way where we come together and all hands are on deck to be able to move us forward.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, senators and committee members, for your questions, your attempt, I think, to be as succinct as possible. We also have a couple questions from members we've invited from the assembly to be here today that are not on the committee. Representative Sinicki has a question.
No, my question's been asked.
Thank you. Representative Kessler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, let me say that I represent the northwest side of the city of Milwaukee. And so, even though I know that no one on the committee is from the city of Milwaukee, I certainly want to say that I am here and trying to, of course, represent and reflect the concerns of my constituents. I want to say that probably one of the disappointing things in any of the legislation here is that it doesn't cover the second school system that's publicly funded in the city of Milwaukee. We all know that 22,600 kids are attending choice or voucher schools in Milwaukee. We don't have test scores for voucher students. We don't have any idea if those students are doing well or doing poorly. We listen to people say, oh, there's some great choice schools, and I appreciate there are some great choice schools. But those schools are unaccountable, and they are also schools that are going to produce people who are going to be the educated populace of the Milwaukee area in the future.